Hi, this is Danny Flexen and welcome to the latest edition of ReFLEXions. We're out every Monday at 4:30 PM looking back at the action from boxing and the weekend just gone. No better place to start than a big show out in Texas, in the US this past weekend, where we saw Sergey Kovalev at light heavyweight exact revenge over Eleider Alvarez. It was revenge rather than repeat, as he won a clear, unanimous 12-round decision to take back his WBO light heavyweight title and avenge the stoppage defeat that he suffered in August last year. A lot of people writing Kovalev off ahead of this fight. His aura of menace seemed to have gone. His trouble that he was in outside the ring, which is still to be investigated. Andre Ward, he obviously suffered the two back-to-back defeats against Ward. No disgrace there, but a lot of people felt that mentally and spiritually he'd been decimated by those two defeats. Well, he didn't look like a mentally weak fighter against Alvarez. Came out from the start, great strategy under new trainer Buddy McGirt, snapped out his jab, used sharp right hands, which we know carry power, mastered the distance really well, moved laterally very, very impressively as well. Alvarez just didn't seem to know what to do. He seemed to be constantly waiting for that big shot that would turn the tide in the same way it had in August. It didn't work out for him this time. Kovalev's defence was on point. He remained focused, concentrated throughout the 12 rounds. He didn't gas as he started to at the halfway point last time. He conserved his energy well. He fought quite economically in the first 6 rounds, still dominating the fight, however. And if anything, stepped it up in the second half. It looked, if anyone was more likely to get a stoppage in the 11th and 12th, it was Kovalev rather than Alvarez. Could there be a rubber match? It's hard to say. Kovalev's victory was so beyond doubt in this one, even though he was stopped in the first fight between the two. I'm not sure if a rubber match is easily sold. I think people would much rather see Kovalev unify now against the likes of Dmitry Bivol, Artur Beterbiev and people like that. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Also on that show, Teofimo Lopez, star-making performance against Diego Magdaleno. A lot of people frowned upon his celebration after he finally knocked the outclassed Magdaleno out in the 7th round. Did a little dance around him, kind of threw punches around his prone foe, which we don't like to see. But he is cocky, he is arrogant, but he's also entertaining. And it was a real clinical beatdown by Lopez. He looked amazing in that fight. Heartwarming story of the night. Finally got to see Richard Commey, often based over in the UK, but from Ghana, win a world title, the IBF belt at last. Beat Isa Shanayev for the vacant title. Stopped him in the 2nd round after knocking him down in the first. Just too powerful, too aggressive, too experienced. After his only 2 defeats came on split decisions, one of them for the same title previously. It was pretty heartwarming to see him finally get the job done. He can now look ahead to a unification fight with Vasyl Lomachenko. I think they're looking at April for that one. Big task, as it will be for anyone who goes in with Lomachenko. But Commey has certain skills and pressure fighting style that could give Lomachenko problems. I think a lot of people will be looking forward to seeing this one. So we'll look ahead to that. What else did we have on that show? So yeah, Lopez looks amazing. Commey. Also we saw the return of Oscar Valdez from almost a year out after suffering a broken jaw in that grueling fight with an overweight Scott Quigg. He came back and beat a challenger in Carmine Tomasoni, who was he expected to beat. Dropped him 4 times, finished him off in round 7. Looked pretty much as good as new after shaking off a little bit of rust early on. So we'll look forward to seeing him maybe against Carl Frampton or Josh Warrington this year, who knows. Quick note on Tomasoni, although he suffered quite a horrible, brutal defeat, he still found it within himself to propose to his girlfriend after the fight, which thankfully she said yes to. It would have been a pretty horrible night for him all round if she turned him down on national TV. That was the US show. Really, really great show to watch, really stacked show. From the sublime to, if not quite the ridiculous, bit of a disappointment on the Matchroom show here in the UK, on 2 levels really. In the main event, we saw unbeaten Ted Cheeseman lose that O against unheralded, but very, very impressive as it turned out, Sergio Garcia, the European super welterweight champion. Not much was known about Garcia, apart from a few clips on YouTube. The fact that he was unbeaten as a pro and an amateur, although I think he'd only had 13 amateur fights, all at national level, not international. Cheeseman was definitely fancied to win, maybe a bit of UK bias there, but there didn't seem to be anything overly troubling about Garcia. But he came over full of confidence, started really sharply, put his grip on the contest and never let go. His lateral movement going both ways was outstanding. He was very fast, had fast hands, fast feet. And he never allowed himself to be beaten to the punch. As soon as Cheeseman tried to get set or unload some combinations, Garcia would take them all on the gloves or on the elbows and then fire back with quick 1-2-3 and move away. 1-2-4, 1-2-3-4 and move away. 1-2-4 would have been especially impressive, missing out 3. But he was very, very, if you haven't seen the fight, try and get it on catch up, because he was very impressive, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. As for Cheeseman, I've seen a lot of people saying, well, there's no reason he still can't have this big domestic dispute with Anthony Fowler. You know, Garcia's European level, so not too much gloss has been taken off the Fowler fight. I agree to an extent, but I'd like to see Cheeseman have a couple of confidence builders first. It was a pretty demoralising defeat. His nose was busted, there's blood all over his face by the end. A lot of people thought the corner could have took him out earlier, although it was a title fight. He would have still felt like he had the punch to turn things around, even right at the end. So it would have been hard for the corner to take him out. But I'd like to see him come back in a couple of easier, perhaps shorter fights first, before he goes in with a Fowler or even a Fitzgerald, if Scott Fitzgerald manages to upset Fowler in their contest. But yeah, can't blame Cheeseman for attempting to go for a bigger title before the Fowler fight, European belt. Came up short, no disgrace there. Let's wait and see what Garcia goes on to achieve, because that'll put the defeat in its proper context. Cheeseman's only 23, his girlfriend pregnant, about to drop. He's got a lot to look forward to outside the ring. Let's give him a chance to have a rest, much deserved rest. He's been in some grueling fights, he's been active. Have a rest, come back, a couple of easier ones, then go back in a testing fight again. Nothing to be ashamed of. Showed real warrior mentality in there. Tough, durable, just not quite skillful enough. Didn't have enough variety or versatility to get the job done yet, but he's young enough to learn. Matchroom disappointing aspect number 2 is that before the main event, I think we'd seen 4 fights for a total of 8 rounds. Not great, especially when one of those fights was classed as bonus action by Sky Sports. You know, Lawrence Okoli banged out a journeyman. The Jake Paul, Craig Richards fight was much hyped up. Really looking forward to it. It's not Sky or Matchroom's fault that it turned out to be quite one-sided in Richards' favour. He got the job done in 3 rounds with 3 knockdowns, I believe. You know, I mean, that's one you can excuse them for, but Lawrence Okoli battering Tamas Ludi, that was never going to go very long. He got it done in 3 rounds as well. The bonus action we saw, that was all over in a round. We need to see more, you know. I know it's a regular Sky show, it's not a pay-per-view, but you just get sick of filler, you get sick of seeing commentators, pundits trying to desperately fill time. And they announced another regular Sky show while this one was still on, perhaps to take people's minds off what they were watching. But it kind of added insult to injury, if anything, because the next show promises to be much, much better. It's at the Copper Box, I think, on the 23rd of March. Okoli's back out in what should be a more competitive fight. I'm not promising it will go any longer, but certainly a more competitive fight against Waddy Camacho. Charlie Edwards defends against Angel Moreno, first defence of his WBC flyweight title. That's worth watching. Joshua Buatsi fights for the vacant British belt at light heavy against Liam Conroy. That's another one worth looking forward to, I think. And Andy Townend challenges Lewis Ritson for the British lightweight title as well. We haven't seen Ritson, obviously, since he came up short against Francisco Patera in quite a grueling fight. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back from that. Fight against Townend, he'll be expected to win, but Townend's a big puncher, proved himself at English level at 2 weights for a long time. So that'll be good to watch as well. Should be at least 5 times, if not 10 times better than what we had on Saturday night. You know, like we said, Bull Richards, everyone was looking forward to it. No one's fault it was, well, maybe Bull's fault a little bit, and Richards on a good way that it was only 3 rounds long and so one-sided. But for these regular Sky shows, we need more competitive fights. We need, just like what we're going to find at the Copper Box on the 23rd of March, 4 relatively, 60-40, 65-35 fights. That's all we ask for, and hopefully that's what we're going to get on the 23rd. So let us know what you thought was the performance of the weekend. I think Teofimo Lopez will take a lot of people's attention, but Kovalev obviously came back from a pretty significant defeat to beat his old adversary in Alvarez and put himself right back in the picture at light heavyweight. Many people now have him as the top man at 175 pounds again. So maybe one of those two. Maybe Sergio Garcia, who came over without a big reputation, outclassed Ted Cheeseman. Let us know who you think the performance of the weekend was and why. And also in the comment section, what does the future hold for Ted Cheeseman? Appreciate your time. We'll be back next Monday at 4:30 PM. Cheers.